Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. And thank you for not complaining about this long choo-choo train of modern Ukraine videos. We're a little bit off the topic of Soviet Union, but I thought it might be interesting for you guys to actually watch and discover what's going on right now in Ukraine in the middle of nowhere. Because you probably have plenty of videos about Kiev, Odessa, and other major cities, but not many videos from far away outskirts of rural Ukraine. And now we're going back to the USSR. If you follow my channel, you should know by now that one of the major problems that Soviet Union experienced was heavy drinking of its population. Men and women consumed a lot of alcohol, especially vodka, and that was one of the big problems because it affected family life, it affected productivity, it affected the accidents at work, at home. So that was a major issue. But of course, if there is a bad news, there is a possibility for a good news to come along. And because there are so many guys who are hardcore alcoholics, and we're talking about, in their early 20s, there'll be a lot of guys that already drink a lot and drink too much. It lowered the bar so much that women and young ladies that were looking for spouses, for husbands, the criteria was just like, as long as the guy doesn't drink excessively, he's already a good candidate to marry. And especially if he doesn't drink and doesn't smoke on the top of it, he's just like ideal candidate. You gotta snatch that guy as quick as possible. Income, his job, anything else is secondary. First of all, make sure he's not hardcore alcoholic. So today we're going to talk about Soviet son-in-law test or future son-in-law test. Well, we need to go back all the way till 1996. That was my second time I came in America in June of 1996, and I worked again in a summer camp here in Michigan. During those good old days, there was no Skype, no Viber, no Google Chat or Hangouts. So if you needed to call your parents in Ukraine from America, you had to use international phone calls, and those were quite pricey. I remember calling using AT&T, and it was like $3 a minute. So my phone conversations with parents lasted 2-3 minutes max, and during one of those conversations with my mother, she mentioned that my cousin Victor, apparently he moved to Los Angeles and he wanted to get in touch with me. And that was kind of weird because in Kiev we lived not far from each other. I mean, he was older, I think he's like 10 years older than me. But we met only at the big family events, if like somebody's birthday or wedding. Otherwise, he was doing his own thing and I was doing my own thing. But suddenly, when he found out that I was in America and he was in LA, in California, he wanted to get in touch with me. So I called him. My mom gave me his phone number. And he was so happy to hear my voice, and he wanted me to come and visit him in California. Which of course sounded great, but I really didn't want to waste any money. I came to America to work and make as much as possible. Because at that time in 1996, my salary as an engineer in Ukraine was about $20 or $30 a month. And they paid me at camp $120 a week. And at the farm, I could make $5 an hour. So, of course, I don't want to spend any money on tickets. But he said he was willing to pay 50% of my ticket price if I will come and visit him and his wife in California. Well, I couldn't say no to such a generous offer. And after my camp was over in the middle of August, I flew to LA and I stayed with my cousin for like 10 days. And I had a great time. I went to Universal Studios. I went to the beach almost every day. I went to check out Beverly Hills, and one day I went to visit my cousin at his place of work. He worked right downtown LA in a pawn shop. Some Jewish immigrants from Moscow owned that pawn shop, and along with my brother there was another Russian lady worked there, and she invited us for dinner to her place to meet her husband and hang out and chat about life in Ukraine because they left Soviet Union, like quite a long time ago. And of course, when you invite somebody for ужин, for dinner, besides food, you're also gonna have alcohol. So they had an Absolute vodka, some salads, some mashed potatoes. I don't remember a long time ago. I remember vodka, that was Absolute. And my cousin, he doesn't drink at all. So that was just me and this lady's husband drinking. So we had one shot, it was like 50 grams of vodka. Second shot, I already got a little buzz going. And during our conversation, this lady mentioned that she has a daughter in her early 20s. I was 25 in 1996, and that she was in Florida going to college to be a lawyer. And for some reason, I remember she mentioned that she had a red convertible Corvette. So as I mentioned, I already had pretty good buzz going from 2 shots of Absolute. But this guy is like, all right, let's go for number 3. Давай по третьей. And I was like, you know what? Thank you, I don't want to. But he was like very, very persistent. Like, oh, come on, man, we're having a good time. Let's just have for number 3, then maybe we'll go for number 4. And I said no, yet, several times. But he was just like not paying attention to me. Just, come on, let's go. Let's do it. And so I got a little irritated. I was like, listen, man, I'm having a really good time with you guys right now. I have a little buzz going. But if I'll keep on drinking, I'll be not feeling well tomorrow, maybe puking, so what the point? I'm doing just fine, thanks. I don't need any more vodka. So only after that guy stopped offering me alcohol and we just finished our dinner, had a good, nice chat, and then we went back to my cousin's place. And several days later, my cousin asked me this really strange question. He's like, by the way, this lady and her husband, they were wondering, what are your plans about America? And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, are you planning to stay here or what are your plans? I was like, well, I like money here, so my plan is I'll be coming on exchange program and work in a camp and then at the farm, make as much money as I can. Then when I'm too old for this exchange program, I'm just gonna settle down in Kiev, find some decent job with my English. Probably I'll have by that time enough money to buy an apartment, maybe a car, find a pretty Ukrainian girl and settle down. And my cousin said, well, if you're actually considering staying in America, my friends would like you to meet their daughter because they really like you. And that's that girl that right now in Florida going to college. And I was very surprised. I guess I was quite naive at that time and I didn't see the big picture. I would say that only after several hours of meeting a guy, parents already thinking about introducing this person to their daughter. And now we need to jump from 1996 back to present days. So a lot of things changed since 1996. I stayed in America in 1998. I'm married to an American lady for 20 years. And I come to Ukraine only to visit. And my visits are different now. So, since I'm adult, have my own family, we started having different conversations with my mom. So she became, I'm not sure if I can use this word, reminiscent. So, when you have a little kid, you don't talk about your relations with husband, with the father of this kid, the way you can talk now. So now my mom is kind of like replaying all her life for me, talking about how she met my dad, what decisions she made. And so we had this one interesting conversation several years ago. And I think I mentioned already before in my videos that my father was always drinking a lot. Like many other guys, workers, blue-collar workers in Soviet Union, it's pretty much like daily occurrence. It's a standard practice. You work your 8-hour shift, and then after you're done, you just sit down with your buddies in a changing room after showers, and you have a bottle of vodka, and you have 3-4 guys that work on that bottle, and then they go home drunk. And so that's my dad was doing for years. And my mom told me the story how she introduced her fiance at that time. I would say they decided to get married, so she went to the village to introduce her future husband to her parents. And she said, they had a meal and my grandpa was pouring moonshine. So they were, his future son-in-law and him were drinking. So he was like, okay, let's do another one. And my mother said, And your dad couldn't say no, so he was just having number 5 and number 6, and he got really drunk because the moonshine was very strong. And then he was sick as a dog next day, was puking and not feeling good. And my grandpa, her father, was very, very unhappy. He told my mom, Lena, this guy is a very bad candidate to be your husband. He's already done. We have this expression, spilся. So the person that already, like, you can drink or you can be already drinker, like alcoholic. So he's already in that stage when you can't say no to vodka, that means you're already like alcoholic, so you're already done. You already spills, and he said, this Kolya is already done. He won't stop drinking ever. You shouldn't marry the guy. But of course, my mother was so in love with my dad, and she believed in power of love, just like in the song, that no, he will quit drinking. He already promised me that once we get married, he will stop drinking. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. He failed the future son-in-law test. And he was continuing drinking for years, and my mom was considering to divorce him several times, but unfortunately, or fortunately, she decided not to. But it's only then that it clicked. When my mom said that he failed his test, and I was like, oh my goodness, Mom, you know what? I had the similar test in America in 1996, and I passed it with flying banners, right? I think it's the expression. And that's only then dawned on me why those people were so interested in meeting me and me meeting their daughter. So situation with drinking was so horrible in the Soviet Union, so parents devised that system or that future son-in-law test that when you meet a guy, you just try to get him drunk and see at his reaction. And if he refuses to drink too much, that's already great news, and let's make sure this guy will marry our daughter. So I hope you enjoy my story about Soviet future son-in-law test, and as always, don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания, goodbye. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet